All right, here we go, everybody. This is Sports Cards Live After Hours. This is the more relaxing version of Sports Cards Live. Much more, I won't say enjoyable for me, but definitely more relaxing. I can sit back and kind of just have a relaxing conversation tonight with Charles. Charles, welcome to Sports Cards Live After Hours, my man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on. How are you doing?
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, we talked about having you on the show. I don't know, it was probably a couple months ago, wasn't it, that we were chatting through Instagram and you know, I thought to myself back then, I think it would be a good idea to have an episode of Sports Cards Live with some younger guys, some younger people that are in the hobby, to give us an opportunity to really let the hobby know that there are young people in it. Because, you know, guys like me, my age, we often wonder, what's the future of the hobby look like? Are there enough young people to carry it forward into the future? And I thought to myself, you know, Charles is a guy who he's out there, he's communicating, he's out there amongst all these, let's call them adults, these older people who are buying and selling cards, trading cards. And there's this guy, he's 15 years old, maybe 14 at the time. And you are kind of carrying yourself quite well amongst all these older people. And so that was kind of the impetus for bringing you on in the first place. That fell through. But hey, here you are tonight on the after hours version of the show. So I'm glad to get you on. We have a few people that have joined us. Let's say hi. You might know some of them. Sound good?
Yeah, I'll probably know some of them for sure.
Yeah, Gregors15 says hello. Hello, Gregors.
Hi, Gregory.
Indigenous, my buddy Name. Welcome, Name. We have Redacted. Hello to you. Aaron Rasmus is late, but better late than never. King X55, hey to you.
Hi, Justin.
Looks like Charles knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Name says just followed you on Instagram, Charles. Name is Indigenous Rookie Cards on Instagram. You may already follow him or you've seen him.
Oh, yeah, I've been following him for a while now.
Right on. Awesome. Paul Cashman, you better be here, Paul. You better be here for hour number 3. Carlos says, Owls A, there's a new one. Kendra Mim Cimarelli says hello. Al G, welcome. Eric, welcome. Facebook user, welcome. Legion, howdy to you too. So guys, if it's your first time watching the after hours version, Terry, hello to you. I kind of sit back. I want to be relaxed. Much less pressure on me to keep the show going as I do during the regular Sports Cards Live. And I like to, you know, this is only the second time we're doing it. So I thought I'll bring on Charles. And we're going to have a chat because Charles, again, is a guy who's 15 years old and he collects vintage cards, which is kind of unique. So you might wonder why. So Charles, before I let you kind of jump in with some stuff, you know, I want to go back in time, Charles, to when, I don't know how we started communicating, but maybe you sent me a message on Instagram and here we are chatting along. And at one point you told me that you were like 14 or 15 years old and I didn't believe you. Like, no, you're not. The way you communicate through text on Instagram, it's like you speak like you're a 40 or like you're grown, well more than 14 years old or 15 years old. You could have been 50 for all I knew. And there was one point, Charles, where it was like, I need you to prove to me that you're not 50 because I don't believe that you're 15. That's just how well spoken you are. So that's a testament. I don't know if it's a testament to your teachers, to your parents, to yourself, but I literally didn't believe you. I needed to see you on video to know that you weren't much older than you were. I legitimately did not believe you.
That's funny.
At the beginning, but then I started to believe you. I still wanted to see with my own 2 eyes, and we got on video at some point, and I even got permission, verbal permission from your mother to have you on because you are a minor, right? And I'm in my 40s. I'm a grown man in my 40s having this Instagram. I don't call it a relationship, but this Instagram communication with a minor. It's like you got to be careful these days. You know what I mean, right?
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is, Charles, is that you are out there buying, selling, trading cards with the grown men in the hobby and some of the younger people too, and you're carrying yourself perfectly well. So I'm highly impressed by you, and it's great to have you in the hobby. It's great to know there's younger people in it. Glenn Scribner says, good to see a young man who likes vintage. So why don't we start there?
Yeah.
Charles, tell us, you're 15 years old. That means you're born well into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Why do you collect vintage cards and vintage hockey specifically?
Well, especially because my dad actually got me into it. When I was around 9, my dad gave me a binder full of his old cards. And my dad collected in 71, 72, told me many stories about how he put Ken Dryden rookies in bike spokes. But he gave me this old binder, and, I just was looking through it. I'm like a 9-year-old kid. I don't really understand what's happening. But as I started looking through there, I started to realize, like, oh, this is just really cool. Because I had, liked hockey my whole life. And funny enough, there was a book in my grade 5 classroom that was about, like, the top 100 older hockey players. And I must have read that book about, I don't know, like 7 or 8 times. And I started to learn and develop, and I'm like, well, let's see here. I didn't really have many hobbies at the time. The only other hobby I have is playing guitar. So I'm like, oh, this seems pretty cool to me. And so I started to get into it. I went to my first Toronto Expo at 10, I believe. And it was just really cool to walk around there and just see everyone. And what I like about vintage cards especially is that it shows the legacy of all the players. I love reading about, like Sid Abel and, like, all of those guys. Even guys like Sugar Jim Henry. He never gets brought up in discussion. Great goaltender. Amazing. So I just love, like vintage players and vintage cards.
Well, and that's what's cool, Charles, is that, we're not just collecting cards. And, like, I've been collecting my cards since I was younger than you as well, since I was your age when you started. Like, when your dad gave you that binder of cards, I started collecting cards when I was probably 8 years old myself. And what it's so much, it was harder to do back then because we didn't have the internet, but now you can look at a card and you can go on the internet and there's the Wikipedia page and you can learn all about the player. And you can learn about the history and what that player, were they a pioneer of the game? How did they change the game? You bring up Sugar Jim Henry. You're right. No one ever talks about Sugar Jim Henry. The fact that you said that just made all the adult vintage collectors watching kind of like beam with pride that this 15-year-old kid knows who Sugar Jim Henry is, like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, but is it the history that really that you're interested in? Do you like history in general?
I don't like history in school, actually. Fun fact. I like the legacy knowing of players because hockey's been around for quite a long time, actually. And when you really dive deep into history, there's all these little, like, odds and ends that, like, are, like, really weird, but it's just really fascinating to me. Like, what is it? Did you know, like, Gordie Howe had a brother who played in the NHL?
Okay. So was it Sid or something like that, or
Vic Howe?
Vic Howe, that was his brother. No, I don't think I even knew that. I knew he had 3 sons.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just little odds like that. And then when you read in history books, there's so many stories. Hockey was such a different game. And to just know that, like, well, this card was a part of that history. Like, I have a card from 1910 and it's missing a corner, but it's just cool to know some kid in 1910 got this out of a tobacco pack.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to me.
Yeah, the kid's father probably bought a pack of cigarettes in 1910, pulled out the card. Here, son, take it. All I want are my cigarettes. And then and that card lived. It's been around for 100, 110 years. That is pretty cool. That's why I like the early stuff too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what is it too? Some of the condition of these cards is incredible. No one ever thought to care for them as much as they have. Like, the fact that there's a PSA 10 Gretzky out there just amazes me.
And that's not even, and that card's only 40 years old now, right? I mean, you look at cards from even earlier than that. And I know you go back even further to cards from 1910. There's cards from the 1910s that are in, let's call it excellent plus condition. They're still really good. The fact that any of them survived 110 years when they were not, there was no value to them back in those days. So the fact that some kids kept them.
Oh yeah, some kids, and it amazes me how good a condition that they kept them, because I have about like 100 base cards in my drawer, and I can tell you right now they're not in good condition.
I'm sure. So we have a few comments. This Facebook user says, "No tough questions for Charles, Jeremy." LOL. Well, you know what? I might ask him the odd tough question. We'll see. We have someone watching. You might know this viewer, Charles. This is Miss Fire. She says, "Proud of my son." I'm guessing that's your mother.
That's my mom, yeah.
And I got to say to your mom, you should be proud of him, because I mean, I'm proud of him, and I barely know him, but just I will reiterate that he writes like a pro. Like your writing, your grammar, your punctuation, it's on point. And I mean, you think kids these days, they're used to shorthand, but you're very well spoken. So I'd be proud of him too if he was my son. Glenn says, I used to throw darts on my Calgary Flames cards. Well, Glenn, I know you're an Oiler fan. You probably know I'm a Flames fan, but hey, we'll agree to get along during the show here, but we can go at each other on Facebook another time. Who's your favorite team, Charles?
Philadelphia. And when you live in Toronto, well, I get teased about that a lot.
And why Philadelphia? Was there a certain player at a certain time, or?
I think it was, well, I first started liking Philadelphia when I was 2, and my basically my grandpa, he got me a Flyers bib, and so ever since then, like, I've always like thought about them and stuff. But it was really in 2010 when like the cousin that like I looked to was like telling me about the Flyers, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's sick, because they were in the finals at the time. So I just started gravitating towards them, and I haven't gone back ever since.
And where you live in the Toronto the GTA, right? You live in around Toronto, so no affinity for the Maple Leafs at all, or are they like your second team?
I support the Leafs just because I know that, like, I'm in Toronto and that team has such great history. So, like, if there's ever a time where Philadelphia's out of the playoffs and the Leafs are, then yeah, I'm gonna root for the Leafs 100%.
Okay. No, that's cool. That makes sense to me. So one thing I'm interested in, Charles, is, I remember collecting cards as a kid, even through high school. And then when I went to university, I had to kind of stop. Even late high school, I didn't stop, but I had to slow down. Didn't have to, but you slow down a little bit because there were other interests that come up when you become, when you're like 20, let's say. And the other thing is that it wasn't back then always looked upon as being cool. When you're a teenager in high school, you kind of want to fit in with everybody. You don't want to stand out by being that one kid who does this one weird thing. I don't know what it's like in high school anymore. I certainly am proud to be in the card hobby. I think it's awesome. I love it. I don't care what anybody else thinks. Tell us from your perspective today, 2020, 2020, being 14, 15 years old, being in high school, having friends, there's girls around in school. What's it like for you being a card collector? What do your friends think about it, that you collect cards, and what do they think that you collect old cards?
Basically, so in high school now, it's the same when you were a kid. Like, I have 2 separate lives. I have school, and then when I go home, I go on Facebook Marketplace for hours. So it's separate things. But yeah, I don't really tell a lot of school friends about it. I know that I have my friends who do like hockey. I know that Greg, who's watching, he loves hockey, and he's really fascinated by it. I was actually telling him about it right before the show, and he was watching that show, actually. So it's the same when you were like a kid. It's like you kind of want to like keep it in like the shadows, but at the same time, if somebody asks about it, like, I'll explain to them what it's about and everything. But yeah.
Yeah, because you love it. I love it, right? We love it. And when someone who doesn't collect cards finds out that I collect cards and I'm a part of this hobby and it's my hobby, it always pleases me just how interested they actually are. And not only that, when I start talking about it, and I got to think it's the same thing with you, when you start talking about it, the passion just oozes out of us, right? Because we love our hobby. So is it like that for you when you start talking about it with, say, a friend at school, whether it's a boy or a girl, or even a teacher or someone, whoever, a cousin, whoever, when you start talking about it, do they respond to you positively? Are they interested in this? Do they want to learn about it?
Oh yeah, for sure they want to learn about it, because you bring it up that I'm 15. There's no reason why I should be collecting cards that are like up to 110 years old, but like I do. So I guess they automatically get interested from like a historical perspective. So yeah, basically what it comes down to when like I'm talking to people is that they don't really know what the whole community's about but it seems really cool when you hear it. It's just like, it's like a big community of guys, it's like a really tight knit circle, especially on Facebook Marketplace. There's no real rules for Facebook Marketplace, but we just all kind of have mutual respect for each other because we're all in doing the same thing.
Right.
So it's more of like a community. Yeah, for sure.
And it's interesting you say Facebook Marketplace because I barely ever look on Facebook Marketplace. I'm a member of various sports card groups where people post cards for sale, but Marketplace is a totally different thing. And I think it's cool that you're doing that. You may have a large part of it all to yourself to a degree, because I think if I kind of project my own approach and behavior, I wonder how many people out there, maybe some of you watching can tell us in the comments, are you guys actually out in Facebook Marketplace doing cards, or are you more or less doing it in the Facebook groups? Never mind elsewhere. I know there's a million other places to do it, but when it comes to Facebook, are you doing it in Marketplace or more or less in groups? I just want to put this up for you. Name says, you're doing an awesome job, Charles. This is a great interview. Thank you, Name, for the positive feedback and for tuning in. Paul says it was 1910. The kid was probably buying the tobacco for themselves. Could be back then. So I asked you this before. Hopefully you thought about it, but you obviously, we've said 100 times, you collect vintage. Yeah. Do you have any interest in the modern day player, in cards of modern day players like Austin Matthews, John Tavares, or Claude Giroux, and Jacob Voracek, Sean Couturier, some of these younger players on the teams that you follow?
Oh, yeah, for sure I do. I have a modern day Flyers PC. I love Scott Laughton and his play style. He's my favorite Flyer. But yeah, I'm definitely still involved with the modern day market. I used to be an only modern collector, actually, and I did my vintage on the side as like a me and dad project and the 71, 72 set. But I gradually went out of the market for modern cards because I was thinking to myself, like, I'm going to do something that, I like doing. And I know that the vintage card community is just a really good place. And it was really easy to ease in from the modern market to the vintage market, especially knowing like a lot of the players and stuff. And I've been looking at vintage cards since I was 9. So it's just like, I already knew like what everything was happening. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be easy.
And when you were 9, were you using the internet to educate yourself on some of this stuff?
Oh yeah, internet, books, whatever I could find. I went to a lot of local card shows. The Toronto card show at the time just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, like this is insane. One day I hope to go to nationals, but I know it's mostly basketball there, which I still like looking at. But definitely and one thing too is that when you're 9 and like you're looking at like all these old cards, like the dealers are kind of look at you funny. They're like, what are you doing looking at all these old cards, But,
so yeah. How do you respond? Like when you were at a card show and you express interest in an older card and the dealer might look at you funny, like, is this kid for real? How do you feel about that response? Like, how does that make you feel? And how do you, do you sort of have like a canned response or something that you've just, you've said it over and over again? So like, what's your reaction to that? How do you, or do you even try to let them know that, no, I'm serious about this. I happen to be 15, but I collect vintage cards. Accept it. Please just deal with it, person. How do you do that?
So basically, it depends on the person, but I know that it's basically almost always the same response. Like I'll just say, oh, I just have an interest with vintage cards. That's what I happen to collect. But when they like start asking me questions about, because sometimes they like test me. They're like, oh, like, okay, then like who won the Vezina Trophy in this, and it's just like yeah. So they definitely quiz me, but how I mainly respond is just, yeah, this is what I collect, and yeah. And when they do look at me funny, sometimes they'll actually stray me away if they like look at me like, what are you doing here? Like sometimes that happens, so I just leave the booth. But
and when you're at the show, who's with you? Like, are you there with friends? Are you there with your parents? Like, how does that work?
Mainly, I go to all my shows with my dad, and my dad's also a collector, so we just kind of rotate around. We do laps around the shows, looking at all the different tables, and just definitely have a few odd looks when I'm carrying around like all my old cards in a little bag. But yeah.
In a little bag. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see what Al has a question for you. Al says, do you also collect more modern cards that have vintage memorabilia pieces, like in the game Ultimate Memorabilia, that kind of thing? Do you collect that, or do you just want the cards that were produced in the 70s, 80s, and prior?
That's actually a really good question, Al, because I've been looking to get into that, and I was like this close to getting a Dino Ciccarelli patch auto from the Cup of 607. I was like this close to getting it, but I couldn't quite get it. But I definitely want to dabble in that market for sure, because then that gets you even closer to the old game. Like,
right.
I saw your Bill Barocco autograph, Jeremy. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was lucky to snag that quickly as someone put it for sale on Facebook and they, just like we talked about in the episode earlier tonight, they priced the card. They said, I want X amount of dollars. And a couple of people said, well, we do cash and trade, blah, blah. And I just came in and said, sold, I'll take it. I'll pay your price, because I thought the price was fair. If the price is fair, I'll pay it. You don't always have to try and grind somebody on a price if you feel it's fair in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like when you're at a card show, as a youngster, I've noticed a lot of times it's funny. Like there are young people that come to my table at the expo, and some young guys, or by young, I mean, mid-teenagers, some of them are good at negotiating. Some of them don't negotiate. How do you negotiate when you try and buy a card in person?
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's definitely times where that they doubt my price, but I know what the prices are, on cards, and especially vintage cards. So yeah, I do love to negotiate. Actually, yeah. I sit there for 20 minutes just being like, okay, look, this is what I have, and just try to get that card, because when I want a card, I really want that card.
I love it. I think that's like a lot. I think a lot of us collectors, right? It's like I even mentioned on the last episode. If there's a card you want, you're going to find a way to get it. If you have the financial means, you're going to end up getting that card if you really, really want it. It's like you'll try to negotiate, but at the end of the day, if that seller is firm at a certain number, it's like, all right, just take my money, give me the card. Do you have that same kind of outlook when you're dealing on a card? Like you want it, you finally figured, okay, I think I now know what their bottom best price is. Now I got to decide. And then do you just take the card, or do you further reflect on it?
Oh, once they get down to my price, I'm taking that card. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Because I've had cards snagged for me before. Never going to happen again. If I have finances and I see that card, I'm going to be getting it.
Cool. Chris wants to know, do you collect vintage non-sport, other sports, or just hockey?
I primarily collect hockey, but I'm starting to get into 1910 baseball too. I think that's just a really iconic set.
Like the T206 cards?
Yes, I'm starting to get into some of those really low grade base cards, because that's all I can really get. But yeah, I do collect some vintage non-sport related stuff. I collect old magazines and stuff. Just whatever I can find. I've always found myself that I like older things more than newer things, much more simpler. I'm not good at navigating a computer. I have no clue how to do it.
Okay. But you're able to kind of hone in on what it is that you want. What other venues do you use besides Facebook Marketplace and card shows? Anything else?
Actually, no. From time to time, I'll use Kijiji. It's the Canadian version of Craigslist. But besides that, I've just used Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, and yeah,
eBay?
In person and card shows. That's it.
No eBay for you?
No, I'm not good with technology. I couldn't do eBay. I want to get into COMC. That's something I do want to do eventually.
Yeah, COMC is really good. eBay, I mean, maybe give yourself a bit more credit. I think you could probably figure out how to use, maybe not, selling is a pain in the butt on eBay. It really is. But buying is pretty easy if you have if you have a bank account and maybe a credit card and all that. But your parents probably have that. So for someone like you, maybe you got to negotiate with your folks a little bit. Take some of the skills you're learning by negotiating with all these shark card dealers and apply it to your parents to negotiate a little bit more money coming your way or something like that. So you can get a few more cards coming your way as well. Sorry, I guess I should apologize to Miss Fire for that. I shouldn't be counseling your kid to negotiate with you. Show us a few cards, Charles. I know you have a few back there. Let's see a few of your favorites and maybe some of the more recent stuff you have. And this episode, again, everybody watching, like, this is the relaxed version. It's it's less of an interview, more of a hangout, a chill session. I'm going to show a few cards that I've had come in over the last little bit. Charles will show a few. And you know what? If there's anybody out there who, if you want to come on and show a few cards, we could get a third on screen with us. If you want to come on with Charles and I, you can post a comment and we'll make that happen. Carlos has a comment for you, Charles. He says the eBay phone app is pretty streamlined at this point, as long as things are preset. Yeah, it's pretty easy to use. So I agree with that. I use it all the time.
Okay,
let's see a few cards. Let's show the viewers some of the cards that are in your collection.
Okay, so I don't have a lot of cards here, but I have some of the heavy hitters. I got my Gretzky rookie first off. I don't know.
He's got a Gretzky rookie card, people. Yeah. So that's a KSA 4. So tell us the story behind this card. When and how did you acquire it?
Oh, I got this about a year ago at a really small show in Hamilton. Carlos Diego was actually there. He was previously on here. But what is it? I never actually paid cash for this card. I traded a raw Gretzky that I had, a raw Ken Dryden, and a raw Bobby Clark rookie, and some other little, like Scott Stevens rookie. And I just ended up with this. And at the time, this was only a $600 card when this was happening. So I'm pretty safe to say that I've won the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I got that about a year ago, yeah.
I guess and in terms of winning the trade, it would depend on the condition of those cards that you trade, especially if you traded away a raw Gretzky. Was the raw Gretzky you traded away in poorer condition than the one that you have?
Yeah, I would be confident to say it was a 1. There was no creases, but just water damage.
Okay. So is that your second Gretzky rookie you've ever owned?
I've owned 4. I've had my first one, which had a big crease down the middle. I traded up to get the better raw one. I got the KSA 4. And recently I made a big trade involving my Johnny Bauer rookie, Bobby Clark rookie, all high grade. I sent them off to this guy. I got a PSA 2 Gretzky in return, and I recently sold that. But yeah, so I've owned 4 in total, but always looking to add one to my binder, because this is a part of my 7980 set, and I want a raw one that I know is real just to put in the binder.
I see. So you don't consider that copy to be your set copy then?
No, I just consider this to be an investment piece. I'm going to hold on to this forever.
So you said you've had 4 of them. You have 1 right now. You've traded up. You've sold some. When you sell cards, are you trying to make money? Are you trying to gain a profit so you can put that money back into the hobby, or do you have other sort of goals with money that you might be making?
How I would explain it is I have like my own little like PC cards that I keep, cards I'm holding on to. But yeah, I do flipping here and there for sure, just because I just like doing it. It's fun to me, and especially because when you can like build like a good name for yourself, especially as a 15-year-old, it's hard to do that. So when you build like a good name for yourself, people will reach out to me, be like, do you have this, do you have that? And I'll probably have it.
Paul says, yeah, the quandary of having a binder copy card. It's something, you're normal, like all the rest of us, right? We might want the copy in our set, but then we want another copy to be like, especially like I collect Hall of Fame rookies. So if I also collect O-Pee-Chee sets, I need the copy in my 7980 O-Pee-Chee set, but then I need another copy for my Hall of Fame set. One copy is not enough for both of those sort of collections within the personal collection. That's just one of the kind of funny things about us collectors. We're finicky that way, right?
Oh yeah, I understand that for sure.
Let's see your Mario Lemieux rookie. I think that's a good one to look at next.
Oh, this is a good story actually. So my Mario Lemieux rookie. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. I'll try to cut that better. But yeah, so this card, I got it recently, and it's going to be a part of my set. I have been looking for this card for like how many years now? Like 2 years, and I can never find one that quite fit my budget for me justifying like spending that money on it, because I'm keeping this card forever. So when I finally found this one, I'm like, oh, perfect. It fell into my hands. I'm like, I have to buy it now.
So where did you find it?
Instagram.
Just someone you were following or someone's story, or where about, like, how did you actually, yeah, I'm curious about the details though, Charles. Like, you saw it, you reached out to the guy, you sent him the money, he sent you the card. Did he know that you were 15 years old? Did he, like, how does it work when you're 15 years old? I don't know if you have a PayPal account. How do you do that? How do you do it?
Okay, so to start off with, like, Instagram, I found this card through, you might know him, it's the Card Collector 255 on YouTube. He had a KSA return, and I saw this on there, and I'm like, this is my chance to get a low-grade Lemieux. So me and him had been talking for like a year at this point, and I just, shot him a message. I'm like, hey, what's your price on your Martin Lemieux? And then we ended up making like a pretty big trade, actually. I traded away a big part of my 1951 collection in order to get this Aguila Fleur and a Ken Dryden rookie. So,
sorry, hold that thought. I don't know about you guys out there watching, but I don't know, Charles, I love it because I chuckle when I hear you. I know you're 15 years old and you say, yeah, I had to trade away a big part of my 1951 collection to get this. Like, what 15-year-old trades away, even has a 1951 collection to trade away? I love it. Sorry, continue. It's awesome.
No problem. Yeah, basically, yeah. So I got that Aguila Fleur and a Ken Dryden, and that was a fair trade. I love doing that trade. Any trade I can do is amazing for me. And how I do payments, I don't have PayPal. All I can do is e-transfer. And my dad has the e-transfer account. So it gets kind of annoying sometimes, and he's asleep and I'm about to make like a really big deal, and I gotta wait till the morning, and like they have to trust me that like I'm gonna pay them in the morning.
Right. Because you're up late talking to these guys and you're communicating on your phone, right? You have a phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're a little more computer savvy than you give yourself credit for.
Maybe.
You must be, if you're getting deals done from your bedroom, like a lot of us do, right? I mean, you have to, it's pretty fun. Okay, let's have a few comments here. Looks like our mutual friend Corey Glass says, I helped Charles build the 79 Peach. He said he needed a lot of them and helped him out.
We met in a McDonald's in Toronto, and I picked up like a whole bunch of cards from him. That's where I got my unmarked Edmonton Oilers team card.
Oh, cool. Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Dave Hart says, show us your absolutely beautiful Yzerman rookie.
I sadly don't have any Yzerman rookie.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that a card that you would like to have one day?
Oh, for sure. That's going straight into my PC if I got one.
Cool. Very cool. Chris says the fact he is talking about this stuff so nonchalantly is hilarious. I know. And it's no offense to you, Charles. It's not like we're laughing at you. We're so thrilled that you're in the hobby. That's really what it is. Like we almost don't believe it. That's why, like I said earlier, I had to see you. I had to get Charles on video for him to prove to me he wasn't a 50-year-old man, because the way he communicates is just so well beyond his years. Corey says it right here. He is beyond his years. It's incredible when we talk. I'm amazed. Corey, me too. That's why I said to his mother earlier, like, you should be proud that the guy is beyond his years. And I said it to you before we came on, Charles. I'll say it again. I want your mother to hear this. A lot of parents might not understand, or they may think, and I don't know your mom does or doesn't do this, so this isn't an accusation at all, or an assumption even, just a general discussion, that a lot of parents think that the hobby is a waste of time, or that, what are you collecting these pieces of these cards? They may have some value, but are they really going to ever amount to anything? But I will, my argument to that is that the hobby, especially if you're getting out there, going to shows and online and dealing with people, you're really getting a great education, and you're getting like hard knocks experience, this real world experience, because you're dealing with adults, some of whom are sharks, and some of whom are really, they may be out to get you. So you need to protect yourself. But if you're doing that, and it seems like if you know what you're doing, you're protected. By that, I mean, you just need the knowledge. And if you have the knowledge, which you clearly do, you're going to be able to protect yourself. But the fact that you're out there wheeling and dealing with people that are 2 to 3 to 5 times your age is an amazing education and experience. And all your friends at school who aren't doing it, they're not getting, and I'm not comparing, I'm just saying that it's putting you ahead of your contemporaries, I believe. And I've been saying this for years. And I've met lots of young people at the card shows who are there with their fathers or their mothers. And they've said to me, you know what? I love watching my son negotiate with you because he's learning how to negotiate. And that is a skill that you may not learn in school, right? You don't learn that in school. I don't think you do. At least you didn't when I went to school. You learn that by being in the real world. So can you speak to that a little bit yourself? Do you feel like you're gaining a bit of a competitive advantage in terms of your future, in terms of how you're going to be able to adapt and be successful in society when you're, older?
Yeah, for sure. One thing about like my parents are both fully supportive of it. Of course, when I first started, they didn't really quite understand, but as we keep going, they're fully supportive of me. But yeah, for sure, especially you learn a lot. You learn, how to negotiate, you learn how to be a businessman, and then you also just learn how to socialize because it's a big social circle at the end of the day. So yeah, the hobby teaches you more than people might think it does just at first glance. You think, oh, they're just pieces of cardboard, what does it do? But no, it's like a full community. That's the right word.
Yeah, 100%. It really is. And you're right. I'm glad. I just want you to recognize it, that it's good. It's a good hobby to be in. There's other things that kids could be getting into right now. I don't even know what they are, but I'm sure there's other things that kids get into these days that is not as productive. I mean, even when I was younger, I remember I'd spend my Saturdays, take the bus, go to the card shop, spend whatever money I had. It wasn't much back in those days, and I'd spend it on cards. And I'd come home and I'd actually have to sneak them past my mother. I'd sneak them into the house, because she didn't think it was a good use of my funds. If only we knew back then what we know now, right? Or if she would have been handing me money if we knew where things were going. But, it's like I had to do that. And there I was spending my afternoons going to card shops and dealing with adults on these items. And I'm sure it helped me to where I am now. Let's see what your mother says. She makes a comment. She says, I love his passion for the hobby, and we chat a lot about the cards, his negotiation skills, and networking with the card world. Okay, it's wonderful that you recognize that, Miss Fire, and it really is, because it's going to put him ahead of his contemporaries. I'm convinced of that. And I've seen it in other youngsters who are now in their early 20s. And these are guys that are out there doing things, making moves, they're making money. They're learning how to do, and they're learning not only how to conduct business, but they're learning how to relate to other business people. And that's really important because at the end of the day, success is based on relationships, right? Not so much what you learn in school. It's based on your ability to have relationships and to work with other people. So important to work with other people. And by coming to successful transactions, successful negotiations with other people in the hobby, that's what you're doing. You're working with other people, even though you're kind of, on the other side of the transaction, you're still learning how to work with people. And that is what it takes to be successful in the real world, is knowing how to work with people and how to get along with people and how to read other people as well. So you're learning that, and it's wonderful. What else do we have? Dave Hart says, show us, he was talking about my PSA 10 Iserman. I have a PSA 10 Iserman in my collection. It's locked away. It's offsite. It's not available today. I'll have to bring it in one day and show some of my vintage hockey collection. I do have a few cards that came in this week. Charles, do you mind if I showed them?
Oh, no problem, for sure.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys what I got this week in the mail. So I love these Noise Boys cards. I don't think I showed this last Saturday. This is from 2012, Sidney Crosby. Charles, this is Sidney Crosby. He plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, I know who Sidney Crosby is.
And then I picked up Connor Hellebuck. This is a rookie card out of 5 from the 2015 Fleer Showcase. That's the sparkling diamonds. Are kind of cool the way they sparkle. See, even us 40-year-old guys, we like our sparkling cards. Yeah. This is another card I got. So I'm using this whole Sports Cards Live After Hours to have a guest with me, chit chat, learn about the guests, but also to show cards and talk hobby in general, right? It's not so much like the regular Sports Cards Live episodes where I'm hardcore interviewing the guests. This is more chill after hours. We're hanging, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I like these Sub-Zeros. This is Kale McCarr. So I do have a basketball card in my hand. I also picked up the Jack Hughes. These are out of 24. They're kind of cool. Kind of cool cards. A Wayne Gretzky Fanimation from Goodwin that I picked up on eBay. Really cool case hit type of card. Only 2 more. Alexander Ovechkin from 14 Masterpiece. I collect this black framed leather set. These are all out of 25 or 35. It's like a 153 card set, and I just got about 125 of them. And then the biggest card I have today, this is pretty cool. I'm pretty happy about this card. It's the first National Treasures RPA that I've ever owned from basketball. And it's fitting because it's Pascal Siakam.
Oh, wow.
PGS 8.5. Yeah, really cool card. I think it's undervalued compared to what other cards are going for from NT RPAs, rookie patch autos from National Treasures. So I picked this guy up. So I think this is going to be a winner for me in the long run, even though it's not something I plan to sell at this time, but one day you never know.
Oh yeah, Siakam has incredible upside.
I think so too. I
think
think so.
Market, yeah, there's no reason why that card should be undervalued.
Would you ever consider collecting some basketball cards, some Raptors? Are you a Raptors fan?
I'm not a Raptors fan. I am a fan of Bol though, and I should have. I'm always gonna regret not doing this. I could have bought like a lot of 20 Bol rookies for I think $150, like his base prism rookies, and I didn't do it. But I knew at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna regret this. And sure enough, his card's like 7 times in value. So yeah, for sure. But that Siakam is amazing for sure.
I was happy to get it. I watched the auction and I went in, I put in my big bid with like 2 seconds left. And it's funny when I buy on eBay, you can put in your max bid, but you're only going to take the next incremental bid is where you actually get to. So when I put in my max bid, let's just for illustrative purposes, let's say the card is it's at $100 and I'm willing to spend, I put in a bid of $300, but I win it for $150. I kind of figure I'm up 100. I'm already ahead of the game $150 because I was willing to spend $300 on it. I only paid $150. I'm already ahead $150 from what I value the card at. So that's kind of the way that's what happened with the Siakam. I won the card for well less than my maximum bid, which is always a wonderful thing, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like it really just like a win in your books because it's like I could have dropped 300 on this card, but I got it for 150, so you can't really complain.
Right? Hey, honey, let's go for supper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
let's go spend the money on something else now. Your buddy Corey says my first card show was 17. Best thing I did. And Corey, Corey knows. I know Corey from the expo. He's been coming around the expo for quite some time now. Always a good dude. Always like to see him come by the booth. But Corey's a bit of a hustler, right? He's out there working deals, and he's another guy who, I don't know how old you are now, Corey, but you're a guy who likes your vintage. I mean, you sold me a Johnny Bauer rookie one time, I think. Isn't that right? Pretty certain. What else let's see what else people say. Well, Glenn wanted to know if you're on Facebook. He'd like to trade with you. See if there's anything we can do. And then Corey says that you are on Facebook, so you might get a friend request from Glenn, who I would say go ahead and accept, not someone to be concerned about. Terry says negotiation skills are important 21st century skills. It will help with mortgages, loans, purchasing furniture, electronics, vehicles, etc. Basically everything. The hobby is like, I said it to you before, the hobby is like a mentor itself, right? Like, you'll meet guys like me, some guys who are well older than you in the hobby who are willing to mentor you, to a degree, of course, but but the hobby itself is a mentor as well. I firmly believe that. Chris says, I did show the Noise Boys. Okay, I forgot. I gotta start taking cards off my desk once I've showed them, so I'll do that. Gregor's 15 says, speaking so well for a young man, you can really hear the dedication radiating off of him. Yeah, it's so nice to see younger people really be passionate in the hobby. Chris says, shiny is my collecting strategy at this point. Yeah, well, you're not going to find much shiny for what Charles likes. He's into the vintage stuff. But if you ever do get back into modern, Charles. You know, there's lots of shine. It's weird because I started off vintage, and then I've really embraced the modern stuff too, for sure. Let's see what else we have here. Chris's first card show was 92, 94. Got a box of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie cards. Then another show, I got some Bret Hart cards. Yeah, Chris always talks to me about his wrestling cards. And then Corey says, I did sell you the Bauer and still got my vintage, but starting to build my big Russell Wilson PC. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, Glenn got some cool vintage rookie cards from Corey Glass too. Right on.
So much stuff up.
So Charles, I want you to take this next line of discussion.
Okay.
You are now going to represent all the potential, I'm going to say kids. Pardon me, I know you're not a kid, but just it's easier to use that term, okay? Because let's say we're going to, just for discussion purposes, a kid is anybody who's 18 years old or younger, okay? For this. How you're going to represent all these kids. How can we as a hobby get more kids involved? Because it's in our own best interest to have more kids involved, because they're going to help keep the cards relevant as the decades go by and the value's up. It's very important for us. Some of us who have significant money invested or significant value in our cards, we want to make sure that when we are going to sell them, you know, in 30 years, let's say, that there is a market for them. So you're this potential market. What do you think? What can we do to get more guys like you involved?
For the involvement part, it's really, I feel as though that, especially with hockey, one thing that we need to do is just expand, like let everyone know. If there's like, you know, like a local card show, put flyers out, you know, like, you know, like request to put it in like the newspaper just to get it out there. That's how I found out about it. My dad just got like an ad in the newspaper for the Toronto show, and sure enough, I've been doing this ever since. So it's just stuff like that when like you really, you know, like connect with it, because there's a whole bunch of little kids out here like there that love hockey, right? And if one day they happen to stumble upon like a little article or like a little invitation, so they know, like a free little card show, that might be the start of it all for them. And another thing we can do too is with the new NHL games, definitely implement cards when you buy like the game. Implement cards in there. When you see, you know, like a kid at his card, a card show, just give him like, you know, like a couple base cards, because those base cards will go a long way. Trust me. When I was 9, I got, a Martin Hansel autograph off of Carlos Diego. He just gave it to me. And that just really was like, wow, I have a card that somebody signed. That's like incredible. So, you know, it's just like, wow, you know, like, so when you're like a little kid, especially just getting in free cards, because that encourages you to do it. And just, you know, like talking to kids, you know, just like talking to them at shows, just, you know, really, really like encouraging them. Because especially when you're that young, you don't understand the full grasp of what this whole community is. But when you start to get into it, you're going to realize, like, you know, this is a pretty great thing.
I'm glad you said that, man. You I think you nailed it. I didn't have it. That wasn't a loaded question. I didn't know what you were going to say, but I feel like you nailed it. And so I'm going to send a message now to everybody out there that sets up at card shows. Anyone out there watching this right now, or watching it later on when it's, you know, in reruns. When you're set up at a card show and a kid comes to your table with their cards, whatever those cards are in, if that kid says, "Are you buying or trading?" your automatic answer is always yes. And if the kid says to you, "Do you want to see my cards?" automatically your answer is yes. Automatically. There's no no's. If a kid comes to you and says, "I've got some cards, are you interested in seeing them?" Yes, you are. Yes, you are. 100%. And you look at those cards, and then, I mean, let's face it, there's a good chance that none of them are going to be of any use to you as a dealer, but that's fine. And it happens to me all the time. And this is what I do at the card show, at the expo, the summit, the national. Kid comes up. I say yes to everybody that wants to show me their cards. Number one, I might find something in there that I need, something in there that I like. Number two, it's just the nice thing. It's just the nice thing to do. It's just the encouraging thing to do. So you basically told me I'm already kind of doing it, helping keeping kids in the hobby. The answer is always yes. I will look at your cards. And when you look at them, if there's nothing there you want, the response is, thanks for showing me your cards. Unfortunately, there's nothing there I can use, but good luck at the show.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do.
One thing that I do, I have like a little what is it, like little box full of all these like old cards, and I know that if some kid comes up there, wants to see cards and like wants to trade, I'll probably do a trade with him, even though because like there might be something there. But if there isn't, I'll toss him like a couple free cards. That's how you like encourage it and keep it going on. And I really appreciate you doing that, because I know that I probably saw you when I was 9 at the Toronto Expo. I probably went to your booth.
And if you did, and you asked if I wanted to see your cards, I guarantee you I looked at them and I didn't make you feel like they weren't worthy or good enough at all, because that's just not the way I approach the hobby and the people in it. So, it's the other thing that we can do as a hobby is, and you just said it, Charles, and I've tried to do this before, is I'll actually take cards to the card show with me. They're just for giving away to kids, which, yeah, and what base cards, whatever it is, give them away to kids. Even the odd autograph card. And I'm so pleased to hear that Carlos Diego did that with you. I've done the same thing. It makes you feel good as a person. It makes you feel good. You feel like you're doing something for the greater hobby and for the kid. You're there are good people out there. Let's spread that around. And so I just really want to encourage everyone who's watching to. I see it all the time. You see kids go to a table and the vendor doesn't even look at the kid. The kid says, "Hey, do you want to see what I have?" No, I don't. No. They'll kind of peek over, see that there's nothing there they want. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You're being an a-hole, right? Yeah. And I don't want to swear, but you are. You're being that, and it's just not a good way to be. So. Be nice, smile, be friendly, look at the kids' cards. And if you don't want any, that's fine. The kid's going to be able to handle it. And the kid needs to learn to handle that rejection too, because not everyone's always going to say yes to the kid for the rest of their life. So say, hey, thanks for letting me see your cards, but no, thank you. There's nothing there for me. And the kid's going to walk away without feeling like he was wasting your time or was, just, you want the kid to walk away with confidence. And that's how you can do it. Make sense to you, being someone who's 15?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I have personal experience with that, especially it still happens to me now. I know, like I'll go to a table and they'll just be like, no. I'll be like, okay, sure. I'll just, go on. And like, to speak on that, I can kind of understand where they're coming from, kind of not at the same time, but like, you just give them a chance. Just always give them a chance. Especially when I was 9, I got quite mad when I would go up to somebody and then they would just be like, "No, I don't even want to see you." And it's just like, okay, well,
yeah,
what,
Give them a chance and treat them with respect. And You know why? If you want to be self-serving, because in 20 years, when that kid is no longer a kid, and that person is out there making $250,000 a year, 10 years from now. That's going to be one of your better customers, probably, if you treat them well at the beginning of time. And not many, just one of your better hobby acquaintances too, right? Someone who, it's all about relationships. That's why it's important, and that's why the hobby is a great mentor for young people. I've said it already. I know I'm sure I'll keep on saying it. So, but I firmly believe it. What did you think about the episode tonight with Justin?
That was really cool. I really like how Justin, he's turned like his collection and his hobby into a business, which is just incredible to me. I would love to do this as a job. That's just so cool to me. And I was looking in the background. There's so many cool cards that he has. He has like a Brian Leach like nameplate with all the patches with the letters. Oh yeah, he's got a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I really think that Justin was a really good guest to have on, especially for insight into like what it's like having like like a self-sustaining business, like it is. And it's incredible to me that we're now in a time where you can do that, because I know 20 years ago, unless you were like like sluggers, there was no real way to have a business that you didn't have a store. But times have clearly changed, and yeah, that just blew my mind when I heard what's
Yeah, you had to have a store, or you just had to be really, really creative and find other ways. There were other ways to do it, but there were very few people doing it back in those days. You know, Ken Golden from Golden Auctions, who was on with me last week, he's a guy who found a way in the late 80s, early 90s to build a business without a store and basically creating a card company out of almost nothing, just from I think it helps to have some capital behind you as well. So you can go to Tops and say, hey, I want to buy $250,000 worth of cards from you, repackage them and sell them on the shopping network. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has the savvy or the finesse to do that or the money. But, you know, if you do, there are some other ways. But yeah, I hear you. Justin has built a business. He's feeding his family. He's got employees. He's done it that way. And it also shows, you know, even for younger people, or not even younger people, but, you know, people in their 20s, whatever, who may be looking for work, there's other businesses you can work for. If you're looking for a summer job or a job out of college, or even between college or high school and college, you can go work for some companies that you might not even have recognized were in the hobby. You know, you can go do scans and list on eBay for Justin and his business if you happen to live in New York or something like that too. You know, there's lots of opportunities. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Cool.
That's all.
Let's see a few comments here we have. Corey says the last 3 to 4 months, a lot of young people have joined the hobby since COVID began. Even though a lot of people are basketball crazy, I feel like tons of young people are joining more than ever. I just hope it lasts. I sold many cards last to young people like 16 to 19 years old. It's incredible. I agree with that. I mean, I know from my own perspective, you know, there's always these comments. There's no kids in the hobby. There's no kids in the hobby. I remember going to an expo. This is probably close to 10 years ago already. And I documented all the kids that I made notes, and then I did a post on a Hobby Insider message board saying to everyone who thinks there's no kids here, I took some pictures I showed of kids with cards after I sold them cards. Hey, can I take a picture and put it up on the message boards to prove that there's kids in the hobby? They all said yes. And, you know, I showed, and there were people from Upper Deck, people from in the game were watching these things, and they saw that there are kids in the hobby. And, you know, there's more than we think. And right now, I think Corey's right with people being stuck at home and not being able to communicate with their friends as much. I think some more younger people have found the hobby. Do you have any more friends or acquaintances that you know that have come into the hobby in the last few months, or is it really just you amongst your friends your age?
I don't know anybody like from school that's been like getting into the hobby, but I've been talking with like a lot of people, like, you know, like even like 30-year-old guys. They just happen to stumble upon it because they were bored and they joined a group and now they're dealers. So it's like it goes, you know, like both ways, especially when there's young people and during a pandemic like this, that they're going to gravitate towards something that they're interested in but don't know a lot about, and they're going to want to learn about it because, well, yeah, they don't have their friends are harder to talk to. So yeah, I can definitely see why there's a lot of newer people gravitating towards the hobby, like 30, you know, anywhere from 30 to even like 10, you know, it's incredible.
Here, look at this one. Glenn says that he gives away cards at Halloween and the kids love it. A few come back for seconds. And Glenn, I mean, I've been doing that since the mid 2000s myself, giving away, you know, get a bunch of team bags, put 10 cards in and give the kids the cards when they come to my house at Halloween. I want to be clear. I don't only give away cards. I also give away candy. So if you come to my house, you get candy and cards. But, and then I got known as the hockey card house on my street. My old house, the street I'm on now, we don't get many kids, unfortunately, but my old house, I got many more, and I became known to that. So like you, Glenn, yeah, I had kids the next year coming back saying, is this the hockey card house? I'm like, you betcha. But you also get your chocolate bar too. So that was always fun. Greg, your friend Greg says, once some facial hair comes in, you'll be a phenomenon, Charles. Well, he's turning into one already. I definitely believe it. And Terry Fortune, who's a seasoned veteran collector, says, I love how Charles knows the history of the hobby, because guys like us, you know, lifers like us who've been in the hobby I've been in the hobby like, you know, I'm 48 years old. I've been in the hobby for 40 years. And guys like me, we're pretty protective of the hobby. I think we are. I mean, Terry, how about you? Are you protective of the hobby too? You're got to be around my age. Like, we're protective of the hobby. And, you know, so it's nice to know when you have a young guy coming in that you're interested in the hobby itself, the history of the hobby, the history of the players, the pioneers. It's really cool. Really cool. Anything that you can add on to that, Charles, or did I nail it there?
You nailed it there, but I do want to add on to it saying that, like, yeah, especially the history of the hobby is really important to know, like, because there's a bunch of little unspoken rules that we all know. So it's just like, like when you get in there, then like you start to learn these things, and everyone starts from somewhere. So they just eventually like learn about it.
Do you have any examples of one of those things, those unspoken kind of rules or things? Like, does something pop to your mind?
Never back out of deals. That's an unspoken rule I don't see a lot of. You cannot commit to saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this card like 100%, and then you just don't do it. Another one is you always, even if the page doesn't say have a coin, always put a coin. Because there's always going to be people assuming that you need the coin. So on Facebook Marketplace at least. Another thing, always have accurate descriptions of the cards. If there's a crease, you need to take a picture, point out where the crease is, put a little red circle on it if you have to. Just point out damage because it's important.
Do you know how to add a red circle to a card on a computer or a phone?
Yeah, I have a little.
I'm just coming back. You're more savvy at technology than you give yourself credit for. But sorry, keep going.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, there's a ton. Another one too is if they ask for tracked shipping. This isn't like an unwritten rule, but it's always something nice to do, especially in Canada. I know that when this happens to me, I really appreciate it. If you're buying something with tracked shipping, like at least over where I am, it costs like 60 cents to add the faster shipping. And whenever I always do like track shipping, I always make sure to add that little extra 60 cents just to express post. I always make sure to have express post. So that's not really an unwritten rule. That's just something I like doing personally, and I know it's happened to me a few times, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, it's just like it's all about being nice, because as much as this is a community, it's also kind of oriented towards business too, and it's an investment. So you have to be professional about it at the same time.
For sure. Glenn says that he does candy, chips, and cards for me. Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it. Eric Stefano says, very nice. Welcome, Eric. Terry was agreeing with me. Thank you, Terry. I thought you would. Glad to hear that you do. Corey's, I'm 28, been doing it for 16 years. So I can do the math. You've been doing it since you were 12 years old. So you've been doing it for more than half of your life already. And I know you're a passionate dude about the hobby, Corey. Eric says it's the best. Yes, it is. Christopher says, one thing dealers need to realize is those kids they turn away are potential lifetime collectors. They may end up deterring from continuing in the hobby. 100%. I see it all the time on message boards for records. Kids post excited about the common records they just got, and the veterans pretty much scoff at them. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Is that what might and good example, you're a good example, Charles, because even but you're very open. You say, it was my opportunity to get my low grade Mario Lemieux. You've got, and that's where you're at right now. But you could show that to a guy, a 40-year-old at a card show, and they could be like, KSA2 Lemieux, ooh, why would I want that here? Take it, But that's an idiotic response. The response is, man, that's pretty cool. Because let's face it, well-loved cards are also pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. Right? There's so much story behind them.
So much story. Yeah. It's totally awesome. I agree. But the thing that Chris says is, that if you're rude to these people, these younger people, it could be life altering to a degree, because they could just say, oh, I had a bad experience with that one vendor. Really, that one guy made me feel bad about myself. I don't like this hobby. I'm out. Back to the PlayStation sort of thing, right? But if you treat these younger people with respect and feign interest in what they have, it's like, I don't want to say that it's that, like, I don't want to make it sound like this is the biggest thing in the world, but you could really change somebody's perspective on things and really be it can go a long way. I think is what I'm just trying to say. You can go a long way in helping a young person flourish in the hobby and potentially beyond if you treat them with respect in this hobby, because they're there because they're interested in it. They're there because they're intrigued. They like it. They like the idea of it. So for some, I'm gonna use for some asshole to change their course that way is unacceptable to me. Unacceptable. If I'm the promoter of a card show and I see that happen, that vendor is not welcome back in my card show. Simple as that. If that's me, not welcome to set up at my card show if you're going to behave like that.
Can I speak on that for a second?
I want you to.
Okay, so I've had plenty of experiences with this, more than you'd think. Like, what is it? I joined my first Facebook group maybe a year ago, around there. Anyways, the first card I posted was a Dryden rookie. And one of the admins contacted, I'm not going to name drop, but one of the admins contacted me immediately saying, like, look, like, you're a scammer. And I'm like, what? And then it's just like, well, you're like a 15-year-old kid that's selling a Dryden rookie. I'm like, well, yeah, so? Yeah, I got booted out of the group. So it's like, okay, that's fair enough. Fair game. But.
And I will say that I don't find that as egregious as I find the previous example of just treating someone rudely in person at a card show, because to their defense, they don't know you. There's a lot of right. And I thought the same thing of you at the first, not that you were a scammer, but I thought, is this really, I really found it hard to believe you were 14 or 15. I didn't believe it because you're so well spoken. Like, no 15-year-old communicates this way. That's why when we first talked a couple months ago about having you on the show, I'm like, we need to do a video call. Do you remember me being like, no, don't message me. I want to see your face. I need to believe it. So I kind of can understand that, but to boot you out of the group and not to request a video call or request to meet a parent to get permission to deal with you, that is unacceptable. They should have done a bit more due diligence and at least give you the benefit of the doubt a little bit before they take that action and kick you out of the group. That's not cool. Are you back in that particular group now?
No, I'm still out of it.
Can you name the group?
I don't want to name drop anyone.
No, I respect that. Okay.
Yeah, but also to speak on that, we're all in different situations, and the fact that there's people out there who may not have like the greatest cards in the world, but the fact that they're even in the hobby, it just proves that like they're here. And as far as I'm concerned, if they're doing all their deals, well, then keep them here. We're glad to have them here. It's all a community. It's all a community, and the fact that people think that they have some kind of right over them because they have more money invested or better cards or whatever, it just disgusts me. It's like everyone starts from somewhere, and everyone needs to realize that.
Man, you are. I still don't know if you're 15 years old. Let's see what we have. Glenn says, I'm 47, been collecting since I was 7, but quit from 2000 to 15. McDavid brought me back, and that's sometimes all it takes is a great player on your team. He says that you have to encourage kids to collect and do not rip them off either. Great point, Glenn. Do not rip off the kids. If you do, you're a dirtbag. Yes. Bottom line. End of story. He says, but I've also had bad experience with a 17-year-old Bitcoin whiz kid. So it goes both ways too. Yeah. I mean, there are some genius kids out there who can take advantage of some seasoned pros. So us older guys got to be careful too, right?
Yeah. It gets scary sometimes.
For sure. Greg says that Charles is also very respectful outside of the hobby. He's been one of my best friends for years, always shows respect towards his peers and friends. I'm not surprised, Greg, and kudos to you, Greg, for complimenting your friend. I mean, that you don't see that a lot, and I don't think among 15-year-olds. So that speaks to your maturity as well, Greg. I just want to say I'm impressed by you too. I'm certainly impressed by Charles, but I feel like I know Charles. I don't know you, Greg, but I find you impressive just by that comment right there alone. You'd be a welcome addition to our hobby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that the fact that Charles wouldn't just disclose the name of that Facebook group, and that wasn't a test. I'm actually curious. I want you to tell me. You don't have to, but I'd like to know what group it was. Not that I'm going to do anything about it. I'm just curious because it's not cool. And but there's one thing: if that administrator of that group really felt that they were protecting the members of the group, right or wrong with who you are, but if they did that out of that, I think that they had the best interest in the group at hand. They just should have gone about it a different way and not kick you out without proving whether or not you're a 15-year-old kid,
Exactly. That's just it. But I never coming from on that.
Yeah. So I think that makes sense. So, I mean, we are well past the 1 hour mark. It doesn't matter what episode I do here, whether it's a regular show, this after hours, if it's any guest, these shows go by so fast. I want to keep this to about an hour. We're at an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not saying we got to finish. I'm happy to keep on going here for a bit. We still have several viewers watching us. We're having the comments coming in. Greg says, thank you, Jeremy. Greg, you are more than welcome, my man. Greg's a good dude, right, Charles?
Greg's a great guy for sure.
Great guy. And how do you know Greg? Through school?
Oh yeah, I've been friends with him since summer of grade 6. I've known him for a long time now. He's a great guy for sure.
So what grade are you are you going into in September here?
I'm going into grade 10.
Grade 10.
Yeah, so just over 4 years with Greg. But yeah, but Greg's a great guy for sure. I always thought I've been really close with him for years now.
That's cool. That's really cool. It's just going grade 10. I barely remember it. Okay, let's see what Corey says. Corey says, when I met him and his dad, his professionalism was incredible, so mature and wise beyond his years. He told me things I was amazed by. Again, I'm not surprised. This kid is impressive for sure. Paul says 3 hours and 20 minutes. A guy has to train for this. Well, Paul, part of the reason that the After Hours show exists on Saturday nights is because of you, Paul. You were kind of the one who made me think, you know what? For me, it's like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. I could stay up a couple more hours. I'm not ready. The show, when I do the show, I love it. The first the original episode. And then it's over. I'm kind of like, now what am I going to do? I'm just talking to dozens and dozens of people, sometimes up to over 100 people during the show. Actually, just for transparency, guys, these episodes are getting during the show between Facebook, YouTube, and Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're getting about 350 people watching these shows during the episode. And by the time I wake up the next morning, it usually hits like 500 views on the episodes. Now, that's not just YouTube. That's all the formats. So we get quite a few viewers. And that's exciting for me as a host of the show to know that right now, all I see is Charles and names in the comment stream. But knowing that there's more people watching over different periods of time, it's a bit of a rush, as I've said before. So I was ready to. It's like, I'll keep on going. Let's do the second show, and it's a great opportunity to bring on more guests and just be more relaxed and all that. So that's why we bring on guys like Charles, and even though this could have been a regular episode, it really could have been, but it just happened that we had you on for this one. Your buddy King X55 says, doing great, Charles. Thumbs up.
Yeah, that's Justin. Yeah, I know. I'm good friends with him too.
Yeah, and he is doing great, King X. Justin, doing better than great. And Glenn says, please give the Canucks some love for tomorrow night. Well, I am. I mean, I think I'm not a Canucks fan by any means, but I like the team. I'm not a fan of the Vancouver Canucks, but I like the team they have right now. That is an exciting young team, right?
There's a lot of good young guys on that team, like Quinn Hughes. Zach McEwen's really underrated. I really like his play style. Not so much a scorer, but he has a really good physical presence for being I think he's 20, 21.
Cool. Very, I'm not even that familiar with Zach McEwen, but I'm learning from you, Charles. I'm learning from you. What did your mother say? She says, thanks for having Charles on your show, Jeremy. You're a great positive influence to any young person in the hobby. And she says, great job, Charles. Well, thank you, Miss Fire. I greatly appreciate that. And thank you for letting him come on the show. This video will live on forever on YouTube now. So, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, Charles, you can point your kids, your grandkids, your future spouse, whatever it is, back and say, hey, check it out. I got to go on Sports Cards Live back in 2020 during the pandemic. That'd be cool. Here's a nice comment from Bill. Bill says, by far my favorite conversation yet. And Bill watches, I think you, Bill, watch most of these episodes. He says, the future of the hobby is in good hands with, and he puts in quote, kids like Charles. Yeah, youngsters like Charles, for sure. For sure.
Can I speak on Bill for a second?
Please.
On Bill, you're going to know Billy Breaks group. I see his posts like every day because he has like this thing called Player of the Day. And what he does is basically, what I think that's the same profile on Facebook. Yeah. So yeah, that's the guy, Bill. He posts these like unknown NHL players, but I love reading what he writes about. I mean, she's really clever with it. It's so cool. That's where I learned a lot of my knowledge about like all these weird backup goalies from.
Really? That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. That's awesome. Okay. Well, Charles, I mean, I'm good to end it here unless there's anything else that you had in mind you want to talk about. If anyone else watching, any more comments, questions for Charles, question for me, any advice, any tidbits, points, whatever you got out there, we're open to hearing them now before we don't have to end this, but we certainly can. I do have a couple of notes here, Charles. Let me just see if there's anything else that I kind of forgot to, we talked about how to get kids involved. I do have the word here, experiences. Any experiences you've had in the hobby? This is something that you mentioned before we came on. Any other experiences you've had that you think we would find interesting, good or bad?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. One thing that I find interesting about that is that when you go to card shows, there's a lot of trust because when you really think about it, you're leaving like valuable items on like a table that anyone can just take. And you're just kind of leaving it there. It's like, I don't know why, but whenever I go to card shows, I always get sketched out, and I'm just like, like.
And it happens. It happens. People do get, especially if you're on a corner table, like the end of an aisle. I hear it all the time. People are like, yep, I got 2 stacks of cards went missing on me. It certainly happens. But as a dealer, you kind of need to be prepared, maybe a little bit better, and have your cards covered, have showcases or plastic on top of them. Yeah. I'm sure people can get around that still, but whenever people are losing stacks of cards, it's because they're just exposed. And while I don't think that's great, it's still, I think, you have to be a little bit more prepared than that. But I hear what you're saying. You're like, why are these people leaving all these cards out, right?
Yeah, it like amazes me when I say when like I see that, because I'm like, this is like, and some of these vendors have like cards that are worth like $1,200 are just sitting there. It's like, I would take that and put it somewhere safe.
Yeah, like Glenn says, put the cards in glass, put them under glass, whatever you want. Bill just says, nope, that's not him, but that Bill sounds cool, so it's somebody else. But
oh, man, he has the same Facebook a picture.
That's Peter Puck.
Yeah, Peter Puck. That's the guy. He has the same one, and he posts every day. Oh man.
Well, that's funny. Okay, that's cool. Ernie Rondo says, let's see more cards. Do you have any more cards ready to show?
Oh yeah, I've got some more cards. I have a really weird PC I might want to show off.
Let's see.
So first I have my Guy Lafleur I got in the trade with the Mario Lemieux. I hate the grading company. I'm going to snap it out, but yeah, no, it's cool.
Very nice. Hey, it's a Guy Lafleur rookie card. He's a Hall of Famer. It's great.
Exactly. That's from my dad's 71-72 set.
Cool.
And then my first Gary Cheevers rookie, not in good shape, but I like it because it's Gary Cheevers.
Yeah.
One investment opportunity I'm going to tell to everyone here, because I swear this is going to happen. Second year Gretzky's.
Oh, you're right. I agree.
Buy them. I've seen this happen 1,000 times. If it can happen with Luka Doncic, it can happen with Gretzky. Gretzky's one of the few hockey guys that have as much popularity and exposure as someone like Luka Doncic does. Obviously, probably a bit less, but you get my point. Like
you are spitting truth right now.
And thank you. And I have this random Mark Messier rookie laying around. I'm going to get graded. But can I take 1 second and show you a really weird PC that I have?
Please.
Okay, so Greg's going to know about this. Me and Greg have an inside joke about Garrett Sparks.
Okay. Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it.
The Leafs legend. All right. So I recently brought up upon a collection of every Garrett Sparks picture from his junior to his AHL to NHL, and I got them all signed. So there's Garrett Sparks with the Gulf Storm. Here he is with the Marlies. And he has a Cujo mask on here. I find that really cool. And the Trevor Kidd, that looks so cool to me.
That is cool.
In his NHL debut.
Cool.
And like, I really like, I'm trying to remember the guy who posts all those little random players. But I really love talking about the random players, especially because you don't really think of these guys off the top of your head. But the fact that they even like have cards is just incredible to me. Like, who's a good example? Zachary Facali.
Who?
Zachary Facali.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He played an NHL game, but he has cards.
Yeah.
That's cool to me. And then Chet Pickard. I don't know. I don't think you guys know who that is. I'm sorry if I'm rambling on here.
No, we know who he is because he's got cards. He's got like rookies in the cup and stuff. So we know who he is.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, like Chet Pickard. People forget. Chet Pickard was an 18th overall pick. He was a really hyped up goalie. And he only played like 2 years in the AHL, but he's doing amazing overseas. Oh, my.
Is he really? So you're following his overseas career?
Oh, yeah. I'm following him all the way.
Cool. Here's a question. Chris West wants to know, what's your number one want right now?
Oh, right now? I have two main wants. An Ovechkin Young Guns, investment purposes, and a really bad condition Gretzky that I can tell has been through a lot.
Like there's been through a lot?
Yeah, like the card, the Gretzky rookie, it's been through like hell and back.
Okay.
So like this card is like beat up. But I just love to know that some guy in 1979 or 80 just pulled this card. And now it's like, what's the story behind it, you know?
And played with it and traded it and put it in his back pocket.
Played out.
Cool. Corey says, what is the number one card in your collection or your favorite card set that you would want to complete?
My favorite card is the Gretzky rookie that I showed earlier, just because it's the most iconic hockey card, I would argue, probably ever, besides the Gordie Howe rookie. Okay. Favorite card set I want to complete. I got pretty far in the 1951. I got like 30 cards in, and I just like, I'm never going to be able to finish this. I can't finish what I started, so I might as well just keep it. And I would love to do the 1951 set. That was the first card set produced after the war. It's just iconic. So many great rookies in that set. So many. You're right. So many. For sure. For sure. I love this. Paul Cashman says, best sports cards live quote ever. If it can happen to Doncic, it can happen to Gretzky. Like, right? Yeah. You know, like, how about Glenn wants to know, do you have any Bobby Orr rookies? I got to think if you did, you might have shown them already. I don't, sadly. I have a whole bunch of other cards at Dad's that I love to show, but no, that's another big chase card for me. That's my dad's favorite player. So if I ever get an opportunity to get it like a PSA 1, if I'm ever in that spot where I can buy one, I'm going to just make a post and get the first one I see. Perfect. So Chris West says, so a Gretzky like that mantle from last week, tape and all, because Carlos last week showed that that PSA 1 Mickey Mantle he had. Yeah, that was a great after hours. Yeah, something like that, something like really odd about it. Like I saw a post, someone put their Gretzky rookie in like epoxy. I wouldn't want that, but I'm just saying that's like incredible that someone would even think to do that. Yeah, that's cool. Well, talk about protecting it forever, right? That card. Yeah, it's literally stuck in there. You can't get it out. Yeah, that's hilarious. Cool. Okay, man. Well, listen, Charles, it's been fun having you on. This has been a nice, I can't believe we're already an hour. This time, I don't know where the time goes. We're at an hour, 25 minutes. It's mind blowing. We got great viewership. We've got lots of people watching. We've had lots of people throughout between the 3 different formats. So Carlos says it's a quality card. That was it. It was right? That was his mantle last week. It's an awesome card. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Glenn, I like hard to find Oiler rookie cards too. Yes. Well, guys,
I don't know. I had fun. I mean, this was a good time, Charles. You're a great guest. You're a great guy to have in the hobby. Wish you well in it. I look forward to seeing you at the next Toronto Expo, probably in the spring. You'll come by my booth for sure and say hello, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me on, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Well, everybody out there watching, thank you so much. This has been a nice another relaxing after hours. We're gonna plan to keep this thing going. Glenn says, thank you, Charles and Jeremy. Been fun. Thank you, Glenn, for tuning in.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, everybody else. And Legion, good night to you as well. Thanks for sticking with us all night. Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. This is, again, the whole purpose of this after hours thing is just to kind of relax and chill. Now, that's what I want out of it for myself anyway, because that first episode is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't love it. I love it, but it's a lot more. It takes a lot more of my energy and attention and concentration. I guess you could say. So I try to. The after hours to me is just supposed to be nice and relaxing, and I do find it to be that. Carlos says, good job to you, Charles. Greg says, good job to both of us. House phone, thanks for joining us again. Good night, guys. Good night to you as well. So good night to everybody. I'm going to end this thing. Charles, you can don't hang up on me yet. Wait back there for a minute. Your buddy King says, amazing job.
Thank you, Dustin.
I agree. Thank you, Justin or Dustin?
Justin.
Thank you, Justin, for tuning in. Guys, if you haven't, I will ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. That would be wonderful. Please hit the thumbs up. Give Charles your thumbs up approval, and myself as well, for the show. We had a great time. Charles, was awesome having you. Thanks to your mother for approving you coming on, and thanks for the insights into what it's like being 15, collecting vintage cards, and dealing with some of the adults in the hobby, because it really is eye-opening, and it gives us some more hints into what we can do to really accommodate younger people and welcome them into the hobby with open arms and without them feeling apprehensive about it. I think that's really important. So appreciate you, Charles. Wait right there, everybody. Good night. We'll be back on Wednesday again with the Urschel brothers. That's going to be a fun, hopefully a relaxing sort of episode. So we'll see y'all then. Good night.